Does the amount of penalty points change your approach this weekend?
You're joking? Is this like a trap, or I'm getting this question every single time, every weekend? Sorry? This is the last one. Is the last one? I have nothing to add.
Max Verstappen has just spoken out in a move that defies belief, and what's unfolding has left the Formula One world completely stunned. Verstappen has delivered the most explosive and unexpected response to mounting controversy surrounding Red Bull's systematic protest strategy, creating unprecedented shockwaves throughout the Formula One paddock and fundamentally challenging the relationship between drivers and team management in ways that could reshape the entire sport's competitive dynamics. This stunning revelation represents far more than a simple disagreement. It exposes deep fractures within Red Bull's organizational structure. It raises serious questions about driver autonomy versus team strategy in the evolving landscape of modern Formula One. The Canadian Grand Prix protest controversy has reached a boiling point as multiple drivers and team principals openly criticize Red Bull's aggressive challenge strategy against George Russell's victory, creating the most contentious inter-team dispute of the 2025 season. Red Bull appealed against Russell's Canadian Grand Prix victory, claiming he drove erratically under safety car conditions and failed to maintain the required gap to the safety car, triggering systematic backlash from competitors who view these challenges as unsporting and strategically motivated. George Russell's devastating criticism of Red Bull's protest strategy has created unprecedented tension within the Formula One community as the Mercedes driver systematically dismantled the legitimacy of the Austrian team's challenges. It was nothing, and it all came from Red Bull, as opposed to Max. I don't think he was even aware of the protests, Russell revealed, exposing potential disconnection between Verstappen and his team's strategic decisions that could indicate deeper organizational problems. The shocking implications of Russell's statement suggest that Red Bull's protest strategy operates independently of their lead driver's knowledge or approval, creating questions about team hierarchy and decision-making processes that could fundamentally alter how teams approach competitive challenges. It was pretty clear there wasn't going to be any penalty. My personal view is that they wanted to go and be offensive to protect Max in case he got a penalty for going ahead of me during the safety car incident, Russell explained, revealing calculated strategic thinking behind seemingly frivolous protests. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff's explosive reaction demonstrates the intensity of anger directed toward Red Bull's competitive tactics as he systematically attacked the Austrian team's credibility and sportsmanship. Wolff branded the move by his rivals as petty and embarrassing, creating public relations disasters for Red Bull while simultaneously highlighting the systematic frustration among competitors who view these protest strategies as fundamentally unsporting. Verstappen's initial silence regarding the protest situation created speculation about his personal involvement and approval of Red Bull's strategic decisions, with many observers questioning whether the three-time world champion supported his team's aggressive challenge approach. The absence of public support from Formula One's most successful current driver suggested potential internal disagreement that could indicate deeper organizational tensions. The devastating revelation comes through Verstappen's refusal to provide any substantive commentary about the Montreal situation, creating shockwaves by his systematic avoidance of supporting his team's strategic decisions. I think everything has been said about Montreal. I have nothing to add from that race. It doesn't help anything to keep talking about it, Verstappen stated, delivering perhaps the most diplomatically devastating non-endorsement of team strategy in recent Formula One history. Russell's systematic analysis of Red Bull's motivations exposes the calculated nature of protest strategies that prioritize competitive advantage over sporting integrity. My personal view is that it was just a bit of a faff and not really necessary, Russell concluded, demonstrating how Red Bull's aggressive approach has damaged their reputation among competitors and created systematic opposition throughout the paddock. But wait, there is more. The financial inadequacy of current protest penalties creates systematic problems that encourage frivolous challenges rather than legitimate competitive disputes. When you look at the financial penalties for using swear words in the heat of the moment or touching a rear wing, €2,000 for a team making 9-figure profits is not even going to touch the side, Russell explained, highlighting how current regulations fail to discourage speculative protests that damage competitive integrity. Russell's reform proposals demonstrate the systematic changes necessary to prevent future protest abuse and maintain focus on legitimate racing competition. If it was a 6-figure sum to be put down, maybe they would think twice about it. At the moment, €2,000 for a Formula One team is not even a consideration, Russell suggested, proposing financial penalties that would create meaningful deterrence against frivolous challenges. The radio communication evidence from Canada reveals how Red Bull systematically documented every potential infringement by Russell, creating a calculated approach to protest preparation that suggests a premeditated strategy rather than a spontaneous competitive response. Verstappen's race engineer GP Lambiase repeatedly acknowledged Max's observations about Russell's driving, demonstrating systematic monitoring and evidence collection that would later support their formal protests. Verstappen's penalty point situation creates additional complexity surrounding his silence regarding team strategy, as he faces automatic ban risk if he collects another penalty point on his license. This precarious disciplinary position may influence his reluctance to provide detailed commentary about controversial team decisions that could attract additional scrutiny from race officials. The repeated protest pattern reveals Red Bull's systematic approach to challenging Russell throughout the 2025 season, as the team has protested Russell on 3 occasions so far this season, having done so previously in Miami, also without success. This consistent failure rate suggests either poor strategic judgment or calculated disruption tactics designed to pressure competitors regardless of actual rule violations. Verstappen's diplomatic constraints become apparent through his careful responses to media questions about F1 regulation and penalty systems. "I'm not going to comment on that. I cannot risk a penalty point," Verstappen stated when asked about excessive regulation, demonstrating how disciplinary pressure influences driver communication and potentially prevents honest assessment of controversial team strategies. The organizational implications of this controversy extend far beyond individual race results to encompass fundamental questions about team unity, driver autonomy, and strategic decision-making processes within Formula One's most successful recent organization. Verstappen's refusal to endorse Red Bull's protest strategy suggests potential internal disagreement that could influence future team dynamics and competitive approaches. Russell's backstabber controversy from the 2024 Qatar Grand Prix provides additional context for the ongoing tension between these drivers and their teams, as Verstappen called the Brit a backstabber following their previous stewards' room encounter. The evolution from personal animosity to apparent driver-team disconnection demonstrates how competitive relationships continue developing throughout championship battles. The steward's consistent rejection of Red Bull's protests against Russell demonstrates either systematic misjudgment by the Austrian team or calculated harassment tactics designed to pressure competitors through administrative burden rather than legitimate rule enforcement. This pattern of unsuccessful challenges damages Red Bull's credibility while simultaneously creating unnecessary controversy. Verstappen's shocked silence regarding team strategy represents perhaps the most significant organizational development within Red Bull since their return to championship contention, as their lead driver's refusal to support management decisions creates unprecedented questions about internal unity during crucial championship battles that will determine both individual and constructors' championship outcomes. The ultimate impact of this controversy extends beyond immediate competitive implications to encompass fundamental changes in how Formula One teams approach protest strategies, driver communication protocols, and organizational decision-making processes that balance competitive advantage with sporting integrity and driver autonomy in an increasingly regulated and scrutinized championship environment. Is Red Bull on the verge of an internal fracture that could derail their championship run? Share your thoughts in the comments section and subscribe to our channel for more breaking stories from the world of Formula One.